Welcome to the MMHP in the 989, channeling all styles and eras of Michigan music history.
Hello, Michigan music lovers. This is Scott Baker. I want to welcome you to the Michigan Music History Podcast. I am flanked by Michigan music royalty. To the left, Dr. J. To the right, Sir Fred. We cut from just around the block of the Michigan Rock Legends Hall of Fame in Bay City, Michigan, here at Studio 163 in Essexville. And now it's time to grab a favorite beverage, hit the cruise, and take a trip back with us through Michigan's rich music history.
This podcast is sponsored by our friends at Electric Kitsch, located at 2106 Kosciuszko Avenue in Bay City, Michigan. And now, here's your host, Scott Baker.
Hey, everyone. Back here in Season 2, we are excited to bring to you more Michigan Music History Podcast from Studio 163 here in Essexville, Michigan, right around the block from the to-be-coming soon Rock and Roll Hall of Fame here in Bay City, the Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame. I always got to throw the legends in there.
Got to put that in there, Scott.
I'm trying to sneak it through. I'm trying.
I don't want to be sued.
I'm writing it and I'm saying it, and then I go like, legends. I'd say it late in the game.
That's right.
It's
a big word.
But that's your website too. How's things going with the Rock Roll Legends things, Dr. J?
Well, we're making some progress at the museum. We got the tombstone inside the gallery.
Really?
The Frankie Lyman tombstone. That was a big job getting that in there.
Upstairs?
Yep.
Wow.
Was a little worried about the floor being able to hold that monster, but
wow,
it looks pretty good. And we had, some building experts check it out, make sure that everything was strong enough to hold it. And we're in the process of hanging some pictures. I've got the Hall of Fame wall done. And we've got the signage taken care of, hooked up a number of posters. Tony D'Annunzio was gracious enough to give us 3 posters, all different, that were designed by poster artist Carl Lundgren. Oh. And so we've got those hung. We got the famous John Sinclair rally poster where John Lennon and Bob Seger, Stevie Wonder all performed. That was signed by Gary Graff. We've got that one up. So we're moving along. Chad Cunningham has graciously offered to put up some of his memorabilia, and he has a great guitar collection from a lot of artists that performed in Bay City over the years. So, wow. Things are moving along. There's a tremendous amount of work to do. We got a couple murals that are being painted. So I'm not sure exactly when we're going to be done. It just seems like the mountain is pretty tall right now, but it's moving along. So
it'll be open before year end then? Before the year's end? Or
I'm hoping so.
Okay.
It would be nice if we could open up in the fall. The museum is still closed.
Right.
That's going to be opened on a limited hour basis, I think maybe mid-July. Anyways, things are going pretty well, I guess.
It's ironic you said about getting the tombstone in there, because I was editing our upcoming edition for our podcast, and you weren't here, and the first thing Fred says, did you figure out how he's going to get that in that building yet or any of that? How we got to ask him? And it's like, you answered the question right off the bat.
Yeah. You need some kind of heavy duty equipment to move it in.
Through a window?
When it was delivered, we delivered it from New Jersey in a very large truck, and the museum has a basement where you can bring things in. And so they had kind of this, it's almost like a mini forklift that they were able to bring it in still in its crate. And then the museum has an elevator, and it's strong enough to be able to hold something of that weight. So we got it upstairs, still in its crate, sitting there for quite a while. Oh, wow. We had to repaint the gallery, the floor. There's just been so many things that, that had to be done before we could really start putting anything up on the walls or doing any of the other things we wanted to do. So
it's made huge progress, though. I mean, since we talked about 3 weeks ago.
It just seems like everything is moving to me so slowly that, I would like to, get things rolling. But, you're dependent on so many other people in something like this, and trying to, schedule things that, to everybody else's liking, and when they can, help out or do things. Yeah, it's been a real juggling act so far.
Huh. Incredible. I'm looking forward to it. I know that we've definitely got people all over the state that are going to flock to us, check that out. And it's going to be, like you said, one of those things that's going to be live. It's not going to just be one thing all the time. And it's going to be stretched between there and Scotty's.
We're going to have a pretty big Alice Cooper display. Yeah. Chad had some great photographs. We're going to try and incorporate those. He's got a guitar signed by Alice, and we've got those photos of Madonna. We're going to do a nice Madonna montage. So trying to get something going with the Burdens too, a little local flavor there. But we're having a little trouble with that key to the city. One of the Burdens doesn't want to give it up. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's unbelievable to me, because I had it displayed for years at the Bay City Motor Company, but somehow he's got it in his head that he's going to make a duplicate of the key. I don't know how you would do that. But
was the band given one, or were they given one?
They were given one.
Okay.
And that was presented about 7 months before the whole Madonna thing, where the very same mayor had offered to give Madonna a key to the city. He was running for a re-election at the time, and I think he was hoping that Madonna would come to town and perform, which actually might have been able to be done in 1985. It would have drawn a big crowd, but it at least would have been manageable, maybe. But when those pictures that were taken of Madonna nude when she was a struggling artist and starving to death in New York City came to light, and Penthouse and Playboy were going to feature them, the mayor got cold feet and reneged on his offer, and then that just started this whole thing with people writing in to the Times and that, calling it pornography, and I'm telling you, just...
That was back in the days of, remember the PMRC stickers on vinyl and cassettes and stuff, and the first CDs. It was like, oh my gosh. How's your week going, Fred? Sir Fred in the house?
Real good.
Yeah?
Went to see Soul Express last night.
Outside concert. How about that?
That was good. Real good.
Right on.
A lot of people.
Yeah, everything's going good.
Working
Mr.
on my
Author.
book. And
wonderful. Getting your summer going. Summer's fully kicked in now, I think, for some people. So
yeah.
Everybody's just getting that mask off. So.
I met Bob Darby's son the other day, and he told me some stories about Roll Air. Did you know that Bob Seger came up when, maybe you already told that story, when he was to perform there, his contract said to make an appearance.
He just popped in?
He just popped in and waved to the crowd.
No. He got paid for it and left?
I guess like $500. And
wow.
He was really upset paying.
I don't think Gary said that story, because I would have been blown away, and I just got blown away.
I didn't know
with
about that one.
Wow.
I should have saved it for my book.
Word choice matters.
Yeah, I guess so.
Wow. I heard he was in town. Mike Beatty hit me up saying something about getting them together for a podcast down the road here. So
yeah,
it's something I had to ask you guys.
Well, he's the one who introduced me to him, and okay. He had a bunch of stories. His dad told him. They also said that all the paperwork from a Roll Air during that time in Tony's Park or whatever it was called got thrown out to the curb.
Wow. Did he have any glossy photos of Roll Air back in the day? There used to be quite a collection of 8x10s and really good quality.
Mike Beatty has them, I think. Those are the ones that I have.
We've got
digital.
We've got to get
I'm supposed to meet with is it Mike Darby?
Yeah.
Matt Beatty is on the board of the museum, because we'd like to do a roller thing, but the digital copies, you can't enlarge them; they blur out immediately. You need a really good quality photo, either to put that actual photo up and frame it and display it, or make a good copy and put that up. But yeah, I'd like to do a roller thing, but I need some photographs. So hopefully I'll get over there and talk to him.
Yeah. We'll have to get
Matt
Mike
was
in here.
supposed to set it up, so I haven't heard back from him yet.
Good. Well, there was another voice in the room, and we are blessed and honored to have one of Michigan's jazz, rock, and blues premier pianist, orchestrationist, guy that knows how to use his fingers pretty dang good, and he can sing. Mr. Mike Brush is in the house. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
It's wonderful to have you, sir. We've got some questions for you.
Yeah, I did a big story on my website about Deb and Joe, the
Yep.
two teenage girls
The
who
most boss.
the most buzz, yes. Yeah, they had that column in the Saginaw News, and I dug one up here on the Paupers that, boy, the headline, Paupers, one of top local groups. Now, do you remember that being in the paper, Mike?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that had to be a thrill.
I have a lot of those clippings. Yeah.
Did you save them all from all the way back?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I have a lot, yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, I went to the Hoyt Library and looked them up.
Mm-hmm.
I finally tracked down Deb and Joe. It was quite a quest, and the guy who really helped me was Bob Hughes, your former bandmate.
Uh-huh.
He was DJing one of our dances, and I knew he played in the Paupers and was active at Daniel's Den back in the day.
Yeah.
And so I just went up to him because I had no luck going to the Saginaw News. They didn't know who I was talking about. There was no record. Nobody knew Deb and Joe. What's that? So in order to track him down, I had to find their last name. And, I asked Bob, and he said, gee, I can't remember. And so I said, well, thanks a lot. I'm walking away. He said, wait a minute. I seem to remember that one of them's last name was Harden. I said, well, thanks. At least that gives me some clue.
Yeah.
So I went in the phone book, and I'm just looking in Saginaw under the name Harden and calling, and feeling like a fool. I was like, what? What are you talking about? But I managed to get in contact with Deb Harden's aunt, who didn't seem to know anything about this career, but she said, boy, that sounds like something Deb would do. And that's how I got in contact with him.
That's a wild.
Yeah, as somebody, her other niece or something knew Deb's phone number. She's living in Colorado.
Okay.
Or at least was at that time. Sadly, she's passed away a few years ago. And then I was able to track down Joe Hintz, who lives in northern Michigan. And Joe had quite a collection of stuff. Okay. She had a number of promotional photos of the Paupers and your next band, the Ferris Wheel. Mm-hmm. And she had all these autographs, like the 5 original Byrds, Simon and Garfunkel, Glenn Campbell, all these named people.
They came to the Den and so on?
Yeah. They had a deal where I guess Deb lived just around the block from the Den. And so they both attended, you remember all the parochial schools we used to have. Mm-hmm. They were at St. Andrews at Saginaw. And so they would walk from Deb's house to the Den, and of course Frank Patrick knew them and would usher them in. He's getting all this publicity every week. Right. It was great. And then if once Bob Dyer and Dick Fabian started the Waiagogo dances, their parents, because they didn't want the girls to drive at night in Saginaw, would come and pick them up, take them to the Waiagogo, and meet whoever was performing there, and, so that they could write their column, bring them back to the Den. It was quite a story. I really wanted, Joe to write a book. We had all those columns And, it's just like a history of rock and roll in Saginaw from 1965 to 1968, writing those columns.
They were the byline writers of all the Saginaw news.
Well, imagine this. These girls, I think it was the summer after their freshman year in Saginaw, had this idea and just walked right over to the Saginaw News, got an appointment with the editor of the Saginaw News, presented their idea, and he went along with it, to give him a lot of credit for that. And so each week the girls would write their story. They would bring it to the Saginaw News so that the secretary would type it out. And, it was every weekend. The column was in the paper.
But if she were to add to that, like the glue between the stories,
I know it.
There's only one person that would have that story, and that's her.
Yeah, that's what I told them. I said, we could quote directly from your columns, but you could just, kind of give the little backstory about what was going on, because I'd help you with the history of some of the band. I mean, the Yardbirds and all these people were playing at the at Daniel's Den, the Birds, and she just didn't want to do it. I said, oh boy, because that's really an example for young girls. I mean, these two were like pioneers. I don't think there were any other
This is something
female writers.
I didn't even know about this as a journalist coming through Sue White, who was my mentor. This is nothing I even never knew about. So
I contacted Sue White first thing. That's what I thought. If anybody would know a Sue White, nothing.
Huh?
Yeah, she didn't remember it.
She didn't even respond.
Oh,
she died, I think, didn't she?
Yeah, she's gone now.
Yeah.
But this was years ago when
Right.
Sue was still around. Yeah. I mean, I had met her at a rock and roll trivia show in Carleton. So
yeah, I would have a couple of those stories, from the clippings.
yeah, I went to the White and just download, put them on the microfiche and then did a copy. They're, the copies aren't the greatest, but
Oh wow!
I think Bo White has all those.
yeah, I introduced, or I didn't introduce him, but I helped Bo make contact. I put him in contact with Joe Hintz.
Oh.
And so he got a lot of his stuff for that book from Joe, because she has a big box with all this stuff in it.
Wow, that's fantastic. And you said they're both passed now, or are they?
Joe's still alive.
She's still alive. Okay.
Well, what do you remember? That had to be such a thrill, Mike, playing on that stage at Daniel's Den with the big curtain and everything. I mean, that was cool.
Oh yeah, if you got a chance to do that, you felt like you were making it, because we're kids. Our first band, we were 14. So
Oh wow!
so we might have been 16. I don't remember if I could drive to the gig or not. But yeah, that was really something.
And you got to meet probably some fairly important people, I would think, right?
Well, not so much of that, but Gary and the Pacemakers, but Frank Patrick. Somehow he was sponsored our band. He's like our manager, and Tom Mueller was involved, and they got Sun amps for us through Len Eastman from the Kingsman.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
sure.
he was the Sun amp guy. So we got a Sun PA and amps. We had to pay for them, but I think we got a deal on them maybe or something. And and we played at the Den a lot.
Now, did you play at any of the dens outside of Saginaw? He had some Daniel's Dens and other.
Well, there were
parts of
other
Michigan.
There were other teen clubs around Michigan.
Oh yeah,
Which is what made that such a cool time. If you're your band, if you had a band and you get one of your parents to drive you to the,
yeah. Did you play at Band Canyon in Bay City?
yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting place.
That was more of a bar, though, I think, wasn't it?
No, there was no alcohol there. They had maybe the kiddie cocktails like Frank Patrick had at Daniel's Den. I don't know that for sure, but in the Blue Light in Midland.
I think we did that. Just did that once.
Yeah.
But it was that. Yeah.
The Y? dances?
Yeah.
Because I saw you at the reunion.
Uh-huh.
I took pictures of that.
Oh, with the boss man and stuff?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that was pretty cool. Question mark.
Was that like 20 years ago now? Seems like it.
Yeah, because we had our 25th class reunion in '93, and our band played for that. And then right after, and that might have been that same year.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Because Randy Gerard lives in Georgia, so and he hasn't been here since maybe. But
Now, was it basically the same band that evolved into the Ferris wheel? Or did you just change the name?
well, there was a band out of Canada that was the Paupers, and they were actually a successful group.
Yeah, I saw there was a Carl Lundgren poster. He makes his living selling replicas of his famous posters. And I saw the Paupers headline, so that must have been the band you're talking about.
Yeah, and so that was a decision from Frank Patrick. You need to change the name of this band, and Ferris wheel, and they spelled it wrong so that it would only have one R, so there'd be 5 letters in each word, But we pretty much hated that name, but that's what we did.
Yeah.
So you could get the Sun amps, I suppose.
Right. I think Joe had a promotional shot of you guys as the Ferris wheel, as well as Paupers.
Oh yeah. And then we had the matching Nehru jackets and stuff. Yeah.
I think you were on a train bridge or something like that.
That famous train bridge.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Very neat.
Wow. That's some era talk there. Is there any backstory to, you said Gary and the Pacemakers? That was was that one of your favorites that you wanted to make sure?
I just remember that we opened for them, but we didn't open for.
Was it Gary and the Playboys?
Oh yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Yeah, because Jerry and the Pacemakers, that's the English group.
Okay, I said the wrong name then.
Gary Lewis and the Playboys.
Yeah. Well, they had a lot of hits in that mid-'60s period.
And they had that green room at the Den. Were you ever in there?
Did you guys go in there?
Might have been about as big as this in the basement.
We played at it once, and I think we were down there.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but
yeah.
Backstage was small, and you're crammed in with them.
Well, he actually went. It seems like he went downstairs.
Huh.
Yeah, but that was cool. You'd be waiting for them to open up announce you and open up the curtain. Yeah. Felt like it was a big deal.
Heady stuff for a young man in those days.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where did you head right after all that, Mike? I mean, what was your musical life like? I know some of it, but you got to explain to me how it broke down and how you made it through.
Oh, well, right after that, we that group kind of broke up, and Tom Burt, the drummer, and Ron Serderson and I formed Michael RT. And so it was an organ trio, because there were some organ trios at that time. And we did that. Probably our coolest gig was to be on the MC5 concert down at the auditorium. And they played later. We probably played at noon or something, but
you were on the bill.
But you were on the bill.
Yeah.
So it was MC5.
Was that one of those things where all the Michigan bands?
There was a bunch of them.
Yeah, I saw it. A show in '69 with all the Michigan bands, and the MC5 was the headliner.
Yep. You tell people about that, it seems so crazy, because it'd be Nugent and Bob Seger, and
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty amazing.
Like $5.
That's right. Wow. All those legendary people at one place at the same time. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that was the organ trio by the late '60s.
Yep. And after that, I went to school and moved down to Ypsilanti, and then over to Kego Harbor by Pontiac.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and played over there. Had another trio over there, and then for a few years, then we decided to get married and move back to Saginaw.
and then you got into teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I was a teacher for 35 years,
What?
so yeah.
Where?
Well, it was mostly at Kramer Junior High School in Essexville. I think it was 27 years there. But I did some parochial schools and, various other things along the way.
Yeah,
You do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I was reading up an article on you, and it sounded like you really enjoyed working with kids, and it's very challenging, and it's not easy work. A lot of people think it's easy being a teacher.
Yeah,
Get in that classroom for a while, you'll find out.
Right. And for 20 years, I was a traveling elementary music teacher. So I'd push pianos. Well, sometimes you'd have a room. Sometimes I'd push a piano from room to room on the half hour.
Well, that must have been kind of interesting.
Yeah. That was cool. And you kind of find out that you don't have the kind of material that you wish you had to kind of communicate in your way with kids. So I ended up just writing things for the kids, and which started me in a whole different direction of writing songs that had social significance and so on. That when I'd look for things like that, there was just nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
now, you were writing songs that the kids would perform in class. Is that basically what?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the things about this was a while. There was where was I? I think I was at Heaven Rich School in Saginaw, probably 5th grade, and there was a kid, and I wrote a song called "I'm Gonna Make It in This World." Just the kind of the confidence building kind of song,
Right.
And with the kind of words that kids would only ever say if they were singing them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They just wouldn't think to say things like that. And I remember years later, I was at an event after a tough week, and I saw this kid. So that years had passed, and so I had a rough week. I was bummed out at this event, and I saw this kid, and he came up and started singing that song to me, and it just knocked me out.
Wow.
Yeah, that meant that much to him all those years after.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the rewards, of teaching, that you don't see immediately, but it comes back to you. It's sort of like a little gift. It kind of comes out of the ether every once in a while. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's, very gratifying, to have those kinds of experiences with your former students.
Yeah.
Fantastic story. Wow. So you moved back here, you said, when was that?
Well, that would have been, we got married in 76.
So you moved back. Right?
Yeah, I went back to school and got graduated. Kathy came home, my wife, came home one day and she said, "Oh, they're hiring a music teacher in Saginaw." I went, oh, great. And I went down there. George Anderson was the music director, so I had to audition for George Anderson. I of course played Georgia. And, anyways, he hired me, and then I was an elementary music teacher.
How long did it take while you were doing your teaching there to get back out in the local scene, or was that just always something you did along the way?
I pretty much always played on the weekends.
And it was whether you were in Pontiac or wherever you were.
Well, no, this is all in Saginaw now.
All in Saginaw now. Okay.
Or around, but mainly Saginaw.
Did you just call up small buddies and put band together? Or?
No. When we got married, I don't know how it happened, but somebody called me. I don't know if it was Tom Dolson. I didn't know him, but I played with Yunnan out at Hidden Hollow.
I had an 8-track tape of that band.
Yeah.
I gave it back to Tom. It was Tom's
Yeah.
tape.
So I played with them. Then I played with William Lewis Group out of Midland, Jim Fulkerson and Don Ware and those guys. And we played at the Holiday Inn in Midland. That was a really good group.
Yeah, I just drove by that Holiday Inn. That used to be such a great place. Wow, it's it's a ghost town now, just falling apart.
Oh, yeah.
We used to have fraternity parties at that Holiday Inn. Wild.
That was
Maybe you're the cause, Fred. It was looking pretty
Well,
in rough shape when I drove by it a couple weeks ago.
Mid-60s.
It looked like somebody had taken over that place with a washboard.
and that's when I went back to school. That's when I met Ron Lopez.
Okay.
Yeah, Bob Grundner and Jim Scollin. So we played. So
That was late 70s?
that would have been like mid 70s.
Oh, cool.
So Ron and I played quite a bit after that. Yeah.
So is this the Brush-Lopez Band? Were you calling yourselves that at that point?
No, I don't know what we called it, but that was with Ron.
Mm-hmm.
And
Ron was a sweetheart.
Yep.
Mark Dalt played with us. We had that trio, and then later on we added Julie Malady and got a bass player, and so it just kind of morphed a little bit. But the trio was a pretty cool thing.
Well, in '84 you put out Exposed.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Tell me a little bit. Tell me a little bit about taking a pit stop to do a solo record there that went out on vinyl.
Ron Lopez from Ron Surgerson from the Paupers and so on was living in Lansing, and he was friends with Bob Eldori from the Woolies, who had a Lansing sound. And so he said he told me they were looking for some songs to have in a catalog. So if when somebody came in to record and they needed some extra songs, that he'd have a catalog there. So I said, well, I took some songs in, and he said, okay, he needed to make a demo of them. And so I got Jim Fulkerson and Georgia Whittaker. We went in and did a demo. And then one of the students that was working there, Neil Gorov, liked the music and said he'd like to. One of the only things he got for working at the studio was time. So he would like to take some of his time and complete the album. Take that, for overdubs and so on. So, which I wish I would have known that was going to happen, because I would have used a click track. So, but anyways, the only reason it became an album was because Neil did it. It really, a lot of times when I wasn't there, he'd have to do the mix and stuff on his time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, did that come out on the Spirit label? I think that was Beldori's label, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, I don't know that it did. I don't even know. Do I have a label?
Let me
I remember telling you that I sold one of those to
Spirit.
Japan.
It's on Spirit.
Okay.
Yeah, I had known you for quite a while, and somewhere in the 90s I was shopping in Mount Pleasant, and this pops out in the used rack or something, and I'm like, no, can't be. And this is your first solo record? First album you put out?
Actually,
after the
it's
Paupers?
only one. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And so I got 1,000 of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our daughter was born that year, and they just didn't get out and push, So I ended up with I still got 3 boxes of them.
Oh. Hey, Fred.
Yeah.
There you go.
You might be able to help make some money for him.
About 3 years ago, I got an email from somebody in Tokyo. So asked me if I had any of those albums. It just so happens that I do. Want a box, so I sold it to him.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and it was like for $100 or something. I don't know what they're worth, and then about a year later, I said, "Got any more?" and I went, I think I said, I do, but I was just curious how that works. What's the market, for that kind of thing? And then they didn't hear from them.
Oh, really?
So I was going to try to cut in on the action.
Well, I sell Blue Note records to Japan for $300 and $400. Some of them.
Wow.
Some of the early ones.
Mm-hmm.
So yours might, they like independent jazz recordings.
Big in Japan. There's a song of that.
There is.
But I'm big in Japan.
Yeah.
Tom Waits.
Tom Waits, yeah. I can hear it right now.
When did you hook up with Larry McCray?
That would have been probably in the mid 80s.
Before that festival in Chicago?
Yep, because
Okay.
Ron Tucker had the Tucker Blues Band, and he had
Well, I was the drummer for a lot of that time.
and when he had me come in, it was Larry and Carl and Steve.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was after. Yeah.
Yep. So
Yeah, Steve was a better drummer than I am, that's for sure.
Larry he was still working at General Motors.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Larry was here. He ended our first season episodes, and he brought up your name. You were on his first tour,
Yeah.
the Gary Moore shows.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you some of your own stories. What were some of your memories from that tour? That was the Ambition tour.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mark Miller on bass.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Ray Goodman on guitar.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
It was cool. We had a flat in London, and then we'd go out to Germany or wherever, different places. And remember going to Berlin. We were there at the time that it was opening up. Checkpoint Charlie could kind of go through. Right there, the wall was down. People are selling chunks of concrete and calling it the wall, And but I remember before we left on TV, they were removing Checkpoint Charlie with the crane. But it was something to stand in West Berlin, which is pretty glitzy, and look across to a place that looked like there's no lights and no paint, it's just dull.
Wow.
Yeah. And they had those things in the road that would come up if somebody was trying to get away or something.
The little metal spikes.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I remember we were going into Austria, and we were aborted by guards, and it's like, no. That was with Saginaw Valley. Never mind. Take it back.
We'll have to get to that one in a minute.
That was scary, though.
Well, you went to Europe with Saginaw Valley.
Yeah, with Charlie Brown and
Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we did that twice.
What was that all about, Mike?
It was the big band.
Oh, okay.
Charlie Brown had the big band, and he put it together. We'd play, Michigan House out on Delta Road.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So we'd play Sundays. We'd go out there, and they'd put all whatever we made, put that in an account.
How many piece was that?
I think it was like 16.
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah.
And you were playing like big band classics, Benny Goodman and that kind of thing.
He had some pretty cool charts.
Okay.
Yeah. We had some guys. Jack Brusky went.
You wrote that song, Jack Brusky, did you?
Jack. Yeah.
Yeah, I have that. Yeah. Well, you gave it to me. That's a good tune.
I like it. I never play it, but I like it.
What was that Austria story then with them?
It's just that we were crossing the border, and we were boarded by the guards.
Oh my Lord!
And
you had a 16-piece band?
Yeah, it's just like, and some of the kids, were like young, college kids, like smart asses, like, don't say anything.
Right.
So are they checking for drugs? Was that the basic excuse for?
Anything that looks suspicious.
Oh,
jeez.
Yeah. But that realize, that's kind of when you realize you've probably been in this situation too, where this is like no nonsense. You do the wrong thing and see ya.
Yeah.
Wow. And you're like, hey, let's play them a Benny Goodman song here, Maybe they'll stop.
I hate Benny Goodman.
Wasn't that the Montreux Jazz Fest that you played at?
Yeah. Yeah, the college days. Yeah.
Dang.
I think it's still going on. The
Probably.
festival.
Yeah.
When you were doing the Europe thing with Larry, did you get to spend any time with Gary Moore?
Couple, like afterwards, sometimes they go out and bands would go out and have a beer or something, but I don't like.
Yeah,
really, I met him, but he didn't care.
You guys didn't have any great stories to talk, or nothing going on, eh?
I could have shared stories with him, but he wouldn't have been listening.
Right. Hey, Gary,
But it was cool to see those guys every night do the show, the same show every night, and it was really good. It was high quality, and it was something to learn in observing that.
wow.
Yeah.
Did you ever go, when you came back home from that tour, did you go out with Larry anymore after that?
Yeah, we went. I think that's when we went to St. Louis, and so we're on the Mississippi, right? We're in this club, and we were traveling with Albert Collins because he went to Europe and come out and do a couple songs with Larry during his show, and so we were in St. Louis, and we were with Albert Collins. His keyboard player was the guy that went with the Black Crows.
Okay.
From Detroit?
So,
Eddie, somebody?
Eddie Hirsch.
That's it.
So we're doing this show, and we're warming up for him, and so I have to use this other guy's keyboard equipment. So we're playing. Larry, I says, okay, it's like solo time for me, right? So I'm playing. All of a sudden, the keyboard, there's two of them. It collapses. One keyboard goes crashing down on the floor, and I'm catching the other one, and the guy came running out to see what happened. Of course, the crew comes in and like reassembles the thing, and so I start playing, and we never stopped.
Right.
Just kind of watch this fool over here, and so I'm playing. I look down, and all of a sudden there's like these red streaks going down the keys. It's like I'm bleeding.
Oh no!
So after that, they started calling me Spine from Spinal Tap.
Eddie called you that, or everybody called you?
I think Larry.
Oh, Larry! Come on, Spine.
Tom Dolson liked that story. He calls me that.
Oh, that's classic. Is that the tour that Johnny B met Larry? So he went with Larry for a long time. The bass player from Albert Collins.
It could be
Johnny B. Gaden.
I don't know.
Fantastic. I had never heard that one. Wow. What did Eddie say to you after that? Did you see him at all, or no?
No, I didn't.
Thanks for the paint job.
Everything was working, so
that's the main thing. Yeah.
Get away from me. You're some bad luck.
A little bit of voodoo laid down here in St. Louis. You say it's good ribs in town. Wow.
This podcast is sponsored by our friends at Electric Kitsch, located at 2106 Kosciuszko Avenue in Bay City, Michigan. They offer new and used records, including local to Michigan original vinyl and CDs, as well as clothing, electronic equipment, funky household items, music gear, and stringed instrument repair. You can find them on the web or call 989-402-1411.
So you've put out a few jazz albums, of course, over the last 20 years or so.
Yeah, we did one with Mark Dalt and Ron and I, and it was live at White's Bar.
Yeah.
And that was the week. It was 9/16/2001, so right after 9/11.
Yeah.
And we must have done it because it was all set to go or something. And so that's weird. It's in that week, you know.
Yeah.
So we did that, and that was a live album. And then we did. I wrote some Christmas songs in early, probably 2001 or so. Julie Malady I started work with her, and she sang some of the Christmas holiday songs that I had written. And then we did an album. Ron was playing. I think Mark Dowell was playing, and we did. It was called. I should know this. It was Blue. I know that. I'll think of it. But that had some really nice songs written by Frank Wildhorn and what's his partner's name? But Julie had introduced me to these songs, and it's really well written songs, and I had to change them, and I had to kind of rearrange them, and so a lot of those songs were written by Frank Wildhorn. And then after I retired in 2010, we did another one. We did another one before that we called Ron Lopez, thought we should call it like a box of chocolates, because it had a bunch of different styled songs. And I had half of them I'd written, but one of them was Warm Chocolate, which is one of the songs that gets airplay.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, and then after I retired, we did another one called Pieces, and I wrote all those songs, and I added horns and strings to those. And somewhere in that same time, I decided I better kind of collect. I'm thinking I better start collecting my stuff. So I did a book called Words. It's just lyrics.
Oh, yeah. We discussed that in one of the interviews we did over the years. I don't remember if it was what one it was, but I remember one of the last interviews you and I did. We met at Barnes and Noble, and it was Ron's last few years there, and it was the advent of digital recording there, because you were running back and forth to Ron's house to get him to cut guitar parts. Yeah,
he had a hard time going into the studio. Yeah. That just was too much. So, yeah, I'd have to do his parts in his living room.
Is that the box of chocolates film? No. Can't remember which one that was.
Yeah. I
just remember how excited you all were, because the product is exceptional. It turned out so well.
Yeah, and we had some different people playing that too.
Yeah.
Brian Rombowski played on it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I miss Ron. Ron was a huge force on the scene. He was everywhere. He's one of those guys that attended all the gigs.
Yep.
He, it's one of those things when he played what he played, and you can't find that.
You can't buy that for anywhere. You never replace it.
That's the guy that did that, and if that's what you want, too bad.
Right.
And I mean, I play with Matt Corrigan. He's a great player.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he would say that he and Ron don't even attempt to do exactly the same thing. Yeah. Ron just had that.
He was an individualist, as Matt is, and he just bring their own sound to the project. Yeah. No one was like Ron, that's for sure. He was one of the most encouraging. Talking about Bruce
Crowley.
Bruce Crowley earlier. They were both from that era, and when I was up and coming, in the late '90s, early aughts, they both had a lot of confidence builders talks. Ron was always positive. Bruce was always bringing in the finer points and details,
Yeah, we took Bruce to Europe 1990 with Lazy Lester.
Did you?
Yeah, he was my roommate.
Yeah.
Well,
Are you still writing? Oh, go ahead.
That cassette that I showed you that time, do you remember who the vocalist is on that? You said it was never released. And I got it in a bag of cassettes that I got from somebody.
I think I listened to, was it a female?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if it was Julie.
No, I don't think it would have been.
And I'm not sure if it was Cherie or not. Cherie Williams.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell her voice, though.
Right, yeah. I played with her the other night.
Yeah. Cherie's got that. So does Julie, though, really.
Yeah.
You can tell.
You can tell them apart.
Yeah. Both of them have such a distinct, if you've heard them enough,
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. What were we going to say, Gary?
Well, I was just going to ask if you were still writing.
Yeah, I wrote something last year called "Crossing the Bridge," and I recorded it with Danny Brown. It was a song that it was just kind of half written for a long time, but with the events of last year, and still, the idea that you always say you're going to cross that bridge and you come to it. Well, we're on it.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
And the song's about that. But Donnie Brown producing, Johnny Brown influence, it's like a whole different thing.
Yeah.
A whole nother thing.
When that came out, or is it coming up?
Well, I got it done. I kind of don't know what to do with it. Yeah.
So what's your writing process? Do you have a particular way that you start and work on songs?
I do. I write songs. I have a terrible practice of writing songs. I get up and write a song. I don't do that. I kind of write songs that I need to write. Like that song. I at the same time revisited a song called "One People" that I'd written before, like in 1999 or something. But it was we are one people here on this planet. We are one with every little living thing. And after 9/11, I remember they had a all religions out of Saginaw Valley to kind of to get things out in the open that we're working together, because there's all kinds of stuff was going on then, religious pointing fingers and so on. So they had an event out there, and I had my kids from Sassa come out and do that song, and it addressed the situation, and those are the things that I try to do. And when I had the kids, I had a Saginaw Kids choir, we did mostly songs that I wrote that had social significance. So that I would write those because I needed to write those.
Yeah, so that's a motivating factor for you.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a song when asked to dedicate the showmobile for this Friday Night Live after it was worked on. We wanted to it had to go to the shop, it was a time, and when we brought it back out, asked me to write a song for that. It's like, okay, so I did that. So
purpose songs.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. A collection of those would be kind of cool. I can see something like that coming out from you, getting to release all these things that you had to have. There was a reason behind all of them all these years.
Yeah.
And that's great. And even going back to far as having the songs for the children and the kids that you were teaching. I remember when I was working with Wagner, Dick Wagner, he his one stop in the road there was that Remember the Child, that was different from everything he had ever done, but he had to write it. It was something that was from the heart, and to him that that was probably the high point of his personal feelings for his career there, and to this day it's, it just stands for something outside of the great rock and roll and whatever else, but he's, those are the moments though, and you've been lucky enough to do a few of them.
Yeah, we did that concert with him too.
You were on that bill,
yeah. But my kids. Yeah.
Did you play out with Wagner quite a bit, or just
not that much?
Periodically.
I played that show with him.
That's on video on YouTube, I think. The one at SVSU.
Yeah. Noel Lehman played the other two keyboard players. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that was just before I jumped in his stables at the studio over there. What a time, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you foresee down the road here, Mike? What's the future outlook? Any reunions? Any throwbacks? Any saying throw this aside? I'm going to go this route. Give me something that we can see in the future.
Well, what you were saying, to kind of compile things that I have. Because at this age, you start thinking about doing that.
Yeah,
getting your stuff in.
It's the archives, man.
Yeah.
Neil Young's archives, Tom Petty's archives, Mike Brush's archives.
Because if you don't organize it, no one else knows what you would want to have organized. And I don't want to stick it on my kids. Here, you do.
Yeah, take
organize my stuff.
Thanks. Right.
Yeah.
Oh. Are you working with Julie Malady at all anymore?
Yeah. We're next week we're at the Redkey Park out in Thomas Township. We do our concert at the Anderson Richmond Center in July. We're doing a gig this Saturday night. So.
And I saw you at the Review Awards, and you won. We would assume that you would. And you played with Joe Balbaugh that night.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic bass player in our area for the last 10 and 15 years. What's going on there? And Tom Dolson.
Yeah, when Bob Martin puts it together, he likes to have combinations, new combinations of people, play together.
I thought that was one of the highlights of the evening. It was so fresh.
And Joe and Tom Dolson and I were doing some gigs over at White's last year in that trio, and we got a chance to do some different things that we don't get to do in other bands.
And Joe's a young cat that's really got it going on.
Yeah, and he picked up that upright bass like crazy.
And then you pulled out the Blue OCs, is it? OGs?
Oh, that's Tom and Jack Nash and then a Scott Lieb. Yeah, so that's really they're the trio, because sometimes about half the time Kathy and I are in Florida, so
okay.
They're that trio. So when I come here, then they let me play. So.
I've never seen them either until that night, so I was like, it was a contrast. It was like the young and then the older guys come out,
Well, they're back together.
Yep, playing on 4th of July.
Every Sunday night at White's right now or something?
Afternoons.
1 to
2 to.
Two to
starts
5
at 2. Yeah.
Mike Beatty was telling me I have to make it down to see one of
Yeah,
those.
that's good. Real
That's
good.
cool.
Outside.
Yep.
So you got a full concert schedule heading into the fall, or just enough for you, or the usual?
Enough.
Yeah.
It's enough, but it's this year. It works out. I'm filling in on some different gigs with Rust Bucket, Barbarossa Brothers.
Rust Bucket is.
They have a gig like in the fall, so
I saw that.
I'm gonna play with them. And
Spalding announced that the other night. Him and Krogman and you and Tom.
Yeah.
And you have a little
fun.
trio in Florida too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just started that. It's like started playing and like, this is pretty cool. Yeah, I'm going back to Michigan and what?
thank you, Mike. Is there anything that we haven't added to the show or asked you about?
No, this is fun.
Gary, do you have any lost pauper stories that you?
No. I
Well,
got to ask what I wanted to ask.
That's
about.
cool.
Yeah.
No,
Those are great days.
I mean, to have a guy come through the rock ranks of the early rock days of the state to being a jazz artist, a teacher, and everything now. I mean, we're grateful for you, and thank you, Mike, for coming on our show.
For me, it's really pretty cool to be at this point in my life and be asked to do different things, and feel like you're active, doing it. So that's great.
All right.
Thanks.
Hey, thank you so much, Mike. And we will be back here again, everybody. Tune in soon.
The MMHP is hosted on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and our own Libsyn podcast site. You can also search MMHP989 on Facebook for up-to-the-minute information, as well as both Dr. J and Sir Fred's album picks of the week, posted every weekend. You can connect with Scott on the web at scottbakermusic.com, Dr. J at michiganrockandrolllegends.com, Sir Fred at fredrife.com, and the Electric Kitch at electrickitch.com.
This podcast wouldn't be here without special help from Studio 163's Alan Garcia, our podcast videographer and wingman, Mr. Mike Beatty, MMHP tagline specialist, Mr. Eddie Switek, and of course, Gary Johnson, Fred Rife, the Electric Kitch, and all of our special guests, and especially you listeners. We want to thank you.
You've been listening to the MMHP and the 989. From all of us at the podcast, we want to thank you for tuning in.
He threw me up against the wall one time at the Hamilton Street pub.
What'd you do?
I told him that Mike Bloomfield passed away a long time ago. I didn't know Bob knew him. And that was in his drinking days. And out in the back of the pub outside, after I told him, he said, "You got me." He threw me up against the wall, and I went, "Whoa." We never talked for years after that. And then at Bruce Crowley's memorial, I don't know if you were there, Bob came up to me and he goes, "I want to apologize if I ever did anything, bad to you or anything." And then I found out he was going through his Alcoholic Anonymous or AA thing.
Yeah.
Thought maybe you played a bad washboard note for him or something.
I hate that rhythm, man. I'll kill you.
That was the worst, Fred.
I never did play with him. Well, his songs were
that's a
always
piss
slow.
Fred won't play with me, man.
Yeah, that's what it was, yeah. I can't get that guy on stage with me. World-renowned
Well, they went up
washboard
in a
man.
minute, but his songs are all slow.
You don't think
Yeah.
Hickory Wind could have used a little washboard solo in there?
I don't even think there's a drum on here, is it?
It's going to be washboard jokes from here on out, buddy. I tell you.